Hello, and welcome to Makers.dev, episode number 37, the most underrated podcast in all of the bootstrapping technology space. Chris, how's it going?
It is going pretty well. My kids are back in school, so that is nice. Yeah, it's going pretty well.
How's that with COVID and stuff? You thinking about that?
Yes. So the district did not have a mask mandate until they saw what the other districts around them did, which is like the other districts have already been in school for about 2 weeks, and now like very large percentages of the school districts are quarantined, and so now starting today there's a mask mandate. It's hopefully going okay. I mean, so far so good. Although we had buses last year or 2 years ago, but 1 week before the school district started this year, there was an email that went out that said, if you live within a mile, then you don't get a bus anymore. And we live like 0.98 miles away or something. So no more buses.
That sucks. That's right on the line. That's like the worst for you.
Exactly. So it's too far like for them to walk by themselves. So we're either biking or driving them. And my wife was sort of like, she looked at it's not because there's not enough money. It's because there's not enough bus drivers. And so they're doing this big hiring spree. She looked at the requirements, and it's not just driving the bus. You're also responsible like for its cleaning and its maintenance, which seemed very odd. Like it was very strange because all the buses go to the same place at night. So like just hire a couple mechanics, and then you have maintenance taken care of, and then the bus drivers just have to drive. So maybe that's why they don't have many bus drivers, because you have to be like, you don't have to do the maintenance, but you have to like take it for an oil change and do all this stuff. So I don't know, very strange.
That's super strange. Also, it seems like an opportunity if you're a mechanic. What a weird way to set that up. I guess they're paying you more than they would if you were just driving the bus then. So what if a mechanic advertised to people who might want to drive a bus like your wife, and the pitch was like, hey, if you want to drive the bus but not worry about this other requirement, I will do that maintenance side of it for you. I wonder if do you know if that's a national thing, or is that just something in your area that bus drivers also have to maintain the bus?
I do know. So like we're kind of in the city part of Indiana, but in the rural parts, like near in the farmland, bus drivers are responsible like not only for the bus and everything, but they own the bus, or they're responsible for like parking it, and they own it, so they're responsible for maintenance. And so it might be like a holdover from that. I don't know, but our district has a bus parking lot, and they own all the buses, as far as I know. So I don't know why the bus driver has to do more than just drive the bus. It's
How
kind of
strange.
Yeah.
Huh. I'd love to know more the history behind that, because it would make sense that if you're a school in a more rural area and you need bus drivers, the most straightforward way to do that is just like, Farmer Joe has a truck that can hold kids in the back. Like, can we pay you for driving around and also rental of your bus? But it seems like that wouldn't make any sense as you scale up. Oh, you sort of went backwards of, it was more of an Uber bus thing. Oh, what if you had Uber for buses? Oh.
So
but it's constant demand. Like, I guess that wouldn't make sense.
So some parents were like basically like, how many people do we have to get together, and how much would it cost basically for someone who owns a large passenger van or something to come pick up our kids every day?
Yeah.
So yeah,
get like one of the luxury Mercedes vans or something. One of the party buses with like the stripper pole and the lights. you got 5-year-olds in there with their little school bags.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. Hopefully, like they're trying to hire more bus drivers, so hopefully we get a bus. But right now it's biking and driving it ourselves. So it's not that bad, but it's annoying. Yeah.
I like biking, and your kids aren't old enough to go by themselves.
No, I mean they probably would. Like they would make it 99% of the time, but like 1% of the time, they would, I don't know. It's like a mile away, and so it's a little far for our 5-year-old, right? So, yeah.
Gotcha. What a weird situation. I'm so curious if that's the same in school districts by me. Another potential business opportunity for my brother-in-law mechanic. If he would love working on buses. That'd be so much fun. I imagine their engines are just gigantic. His grandfather drove a truck for most of his career, and the way my brother-in-law Patrick describes his grandfather describing working on the truck is just this delightful, like, all these little tiny pieces in your car where you gotta like reach your hand around this thing and like you're working with your little tips of your fingers to do this thing. Everything in a truck is just massive, so you can open it up and just stand in the engine bay, and it's just everything is scaled up so much more, and they sound like a lot of fun to work on, and also just engineered to run for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles. So each piece is this big bulky version of whatever the same version would be in your car. I think that'd be a lot of fun for him. We've buried the lead. Your AI competition on GPS ended two days after our last episode, I think. How did that go? How'd that shake up?
Yeah, so we were in third, and we ended up in fifth. So we dropped 2 places. It's not that bad, and it's still... Their gold medals are, given to the top 1%, so we still get a gold medal. Awesome. So that's good. We don't get any money. Top 3 places got money, but that's okay. We did
so
pretty
close
well.
to money.
I know, right? That at least 2 of the winners were GPS kind of experts, so that's to be expected, right? And one of them, I don't feel that bad because the winner like beat us by a lot. I don't, he ended up like a half a meter better than we were.
Half a meter?
Yeah, it's a lot because we were fighting for like centimeters at the end, and so
that's remarkable.
So I'm happy with it.
Was this the guy who was in first place the entire time who had done academic research into GPS stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. That
makes
sense.
It was that guy. Yep. Yeah, and he had he had a really, like most people post their solutions afterwards, and he had a really nice solution. Like it was kind of unique, and it like deserved to be in first place. So I don't feel bad about that.
Oh, because I think you were saying that the top 3 positions also had to do write-ups of what their solutions were. So knowing what you know now, could you have taken some of his tricks and improved your own solution? What was he doing differently?
So the top 2 used things that I have never touched before. So like optimization things that I haven't done before. So it's actually really interesting. I haven't done this yet, but I plan to go and kind of re-implement their solution just so I know what they did. Because they were using things that no other team I think were using. And so, yeah.
What sorts of optimization can you explain it in a way that I would understand?
Yeah. So, so one of them it's basically a constraint kind of optimization. So in normal neural networks, you like basically, or normal ML in general, you like you submit your data and then get an answer out, and then you train your model so that it does better for that answer. With optimization, generally, you are able to apply constraints in a way that you can't with neural networks. And the constraints that he applied were very specific to GPS, and they ended up doing much better. And so I basically think I should get better at these optimization things that it's not ML based at all, actually. It's just regular, traditional optimization stuff that I don't have much experience in. So, yeah.
Okay. What I'm understanding is there's a way to tune your optimization that limits the possible things that you can be tuning if you have a better understanding of what the domain is. So knowing what you know about GPS, you could sort of tell the machine learning algorithm to ignore tuning certain things, and that would make optimization more efficient. Is that right?
Sort of. So I think you're saying the right things, but have the wrong idea in your head, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, you can tune your optimization very specific to your problem domain, but it's not actually ML based, meaning you're not learning from the data. It's like a regular algorithm. It's like a traditional algorithm that is designed specifically to optimize for this problem in this domain.
Okay.
I know that's confusing.
This is happening during training or after training?
During training, yeah. It's partly confusing because I don't fully understand it myself, and so that's why I'm having a hard time explaining it. But yes, there's a whole like convex optimization and just regular optimization using constraints. It's like a whole branch of study, and it's something I don't know very well. And it's something that he used. Also, someone used like graphs, so like CS graphs, not like plotting graphs. Graphs to do it, which is very definitely an interesting way to do it. So I wanted to look. I never had like a class that went really deep into graph theory, and this person was able to use them quite effectively, I guess. And so that's interesting too. So yeah, just a whole laundry list of things I want to look up afterwards.
Exciting. I look forward to seeing the 2-minute Twitter videos of what you learn.
Right.
Scraping this. What a great way to be investing your time. Of like, this was a problem that you were sitting in for several weeks and are able to see very clearly. Like you did incredibly well, and you're able to see open solutions of exactly what other teams did that were better than your solution. I have trouble thinking of a more effective way for you to be learning. Like, I almost love this. Like for school assignments, I would love to see that. I would love to see like, okay, I got, an A, and let's see the papers that the A+ students wrote and what they did differently than me. That seems like a stage of learning that is an opportunity that's not being taken advantage of right now in the traditional schooling system that you're getting. You're able to, you're playing at a very high league, and you're able to learn from the people who are just slightly above you. It seems like it's maximizing the rate at which you can learn better techniques for doing this.
Yeah, it's definitely something I didn't necessarily. I mean, I knew I was going to learn things, but it's surprising how effective it is at teaching me things just by me participating and then seeing what other people do. Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear what your experience is going the more traditional schooling route. When do you start your master's program?
So that is in, let me check, 10 days. Yeah, 9 days.
10 days. Exciting.
Yeah.
Not next episode, but the episode after that, we'll be able to talk about your experience on it. So it seems like the stuff that you're doing in these competitions and the stuff that you're doing just playing around on your own with your new fancy GPU of like generating art that you post on Twitter, I would imagine you're learning much faster than you will be in the traditional curriculum. And there may be things that you get to mop up of like, oh, graph theory is a thing that I haven't studied, and now I'm in this class about graph theory and I have to buy this textbook for it and learn it more academically. But it seems to me like the most competent people in any domain seem to be just the people who love the thing that they're doing, and in their spare time they get books about it and do competitions about it and just make stuff. So I'm curious what your experience is going to be sort of comparing your own self-learning track with the academic route. And we've talked about this before of like, if it makes sense financially. And I think absolutely this is like such a cheap way to get a structured curriculum and get a network of people together. But I'm thinking of this in terms of like, for people who want to learn a new domain, I get people asking me all the time, like, how would you recommend I learn a program? Should I like take a boot camping class or like get a CS degree or something? And consistently my recommendation is like, if this is the thing that you're interested in, pick projects and just try to figure out how to implement the project and learn whatever you need to along the way. And if you get to the point where you're like, oh man, I could be moving so much faster if I just filled in the lower level understanding of the theory behind this, and it'd be nice if all that information was consolidated in one place, which I think is sort of how you've described where you are with AI and ML. Like, absolutely, okay, I think that's the point, that it makes sense to be paying for more traditional education. But if you're looking for traditional education to like pull you along, that it's not really a thing that you're passionate about, but you feel like, well, I need the CS degree so that I can get a good job, so that I can have a bunch of money, so that I can buy a Lamborghini. Like, that's not as effective as just learning it on your own. Does that track? Does all that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much exactly right. But basically, there's two real big pillars, which is the applied area versus the theory area. And so applied, absolutely, like projects in the ML space, like Kaggle, like doing the actual thing is the way that you learn it. So like if you're trying to learn development, like actually doing development is way better than going to school, right, for CS or whatever. The point where I'm at is I feel pretty confident with a lot of the applied things, and I know how to get better. Like I do more Kaggle competitions, I look at the solutions, I try to do them myself, right? What I want to get better at now is, and why I'm going back to school, is so I know how to use the thing. I want to understand exactly like the theory behind the thing, and then I want to be able to make new advances in theory that lets me make a new thing. And so I'm hoping that like I can't think of a much better way to learn theory, which is often kind of boring. So I'll say like applied is often way more interesting than theory. Yeah. So if you want to learn something that you find kind of boring, paying someone to grade you on the thing, I think is very like, it's an effective way to learn the thing. So So yeah, absolutely. If you just want to use it, you don't need to go to school, I think, at all. But if you want to understand it so that you can make new things and then use those new things, I think that's where school can really help.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm not about to go learn graph theory just for fun. That's
right.
I think I guess I never took a class on that, but they touched on it, I think, in a data structure class I took in undergrad, and it was interesting. I think there was a part of it that was like red-black trees, where
that's a thing that
I had to color in
trees.
the graph, I think, when it was filled out, and that was fun, and that's, I think, the only memory I have of it. There were like traversals of algorithms of how you go in order and breadth to depth first, and the efficiency and the big O notation, and I really don't feel like I've used any of it. But I guess it was academically interesting to know that, like, well, no, okay, there's been apps I've made before where I guess just knowing that a graph database was a thing was very useful, because the application was going to need to make queries that were in a graph format. Like when I did the Tree Books app of like restructuring a book as a tree to have a better ebook reader. I'm saying it in the past tense, but like it's still a thing I'm working on. I think knowing basic things about graph databases helped with that. Okay, and I guess I've just like internalized that, so it's not interesting to me anymore that I know a little bit of tree database stuff. Okay,
right. Yeah, that's my hope, that going to school will let me internalize things that I can then ignore later. But actually, I have in the back of my head.
Yeah. And then it just becomes obvious. That makes sense. Neat. I'd love to ask you about the images that you're generating on Twitter. You're making some beautiful art. Looks very cool. What's the story behind that? Is this is part of what you're doing with your new fancy GPU? This is just you playing around right now. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. So I'm using my new fancy GPU to generate silly images, which they at the same time they look very, very interesting and intriguing, and also but also derivative and uninteresting. Like there's certain failure modes that make these look very odd, but then sometimes you get images that are just really intriguing. The other thing I've been doing with it, so the stuff I've done so far is basically what we were just talking about, the applied part, which is I took someone else's code and I changed it a little bit to do what I want. Mm-hmm. Now what I'm doing is applying some of the theory I know to that, and I'm actually I'm building a web app that lets me play with the kind of underlying algorithms more. And so this is the kind of thing that you only know about if you like actually understand what is going on with the algorithm, and then you can do things like pull out different parts of it at certain times and manipulate it in order to do certain things. Anyway, so I'm building a web app for that. One thing that I kind of wanted to ask you about was, so I have this web app now, which will generate images for you, and I'm going to start adding a lot of different knobs and stuff to it. But it is basically, if I wanted to allow other people to use it, there's no way I could do it for free because GPUs are expensive. And if I wanted to charge for it, I would be charging like way more than it is, well, than I think it's worth or that anyone will pay because GPUs are expensive. At the same time, I realize I bought a GPU like for this purpose, and so there are people who might pay lots of money just to play with it. But so what do I do with this? I think one option is to just keep building this little web app for myself that allows me to sort of tap into the deeper parts of the algorithm, and so I can understand it a lot better. One option maybe to try to make it public so that some people can use it if they want to. One option maybe to ignore it altogether once I get into school and realize I have a lot of work to do for school. I don't know. What's your hot take on all that?
I am so excited because I think I have the perfect application of this.
Okay.
Right. But first, how much does this cost you per image in time and money?
So per image is interesting. There are services. I actually just saw several services launch, like two at least, who are charging for it, who are charging $1 per image.
Okay.
The problem is, so it costs about $1 per hour if you are as long as you're using it. Like that's my cost for a GPU to do it. And it can take, it took me 100 or so images before I started getting good results out of it. So these places that are charging per image, that doesn't make any sense because you don't want someone to spend $100. They're going to give up after the second image. So about $1 per hour for people using it.
$1 per hour for people using it.
And that's my cost. Yeah.
What does the workflow look like right now? Like if I wanted to generate a new image and I wanted it to look good, is is the current workflow I spend $100 to make 100 images and then pick one that looks good?
So no. So for most people, they're using Google Colab, which is free. So there is a free way to do this. But the current workflow that they're using is you type in a prompt. So like, a cat riding a bicycle, right?
Mhm.
And then you say generate. And it generates, runs for a long time and then sort of spits out images as it goes. And then you're like, well, that isn't exactly what I want. So you start over and you say cat riding a bicycle, in the style of Monet, right? And then you generate a bunch more cats riding bicycles. What I'm trying to do is a little different. So I'm trying to do that. And then, 10 iterations in, you can sort of pick the one you like the best. And 10 more iterations, you can kind of pick the one you like the best. And then also there's lots of things that I'm trying to do that are better than just restarting every time. But yeah, so that's the current prompt is like, and for these ones that cost $1, it's like you type in something, it generates something. And if you don't like it, like, I don't know, I guess you spend $1 on something you don't like. Yeah.
Okay. What do you know about NFTs?
Oh, yes. So, yes. There are several people doing this and creating NFTs out of them. Yeah. All right. What? Yeah.
I think that's what you do.
Okay.
Something that blew my mind. So for listeners who don't know, NFTs stands for non-fungible tokens. The idea is Bitcoin is one of its features is that it's fungible. If I send you a Bitcoin and you have 5 Bitcoins, you can't tell the difference between the Bitcoin that I sent you and your other 5 Bitcoins. It's fungible. It's tradable. They're identical. A Bitcoin is a Bitcoin is a Bitcoin. If you take away that feature, that's actually a feature. If I have my unique Bitcoin, that is the Christian Jenko Bitcoin, that is, I've attached some sort of metadata to it and said like, this is the Bitcoin I got when I was first mining Bitcoins, and here it is. Now the value of it is independent. I can't trade one for another. I can't trade my first Bitcoin with Chris's first Bitcoin because, I don't know, maybe mine is more special than his, and I have some attached metadata that's interesting. And so what people have been using this to do recently is started this industry that I thought was ridiculous at first called crypto art. The idea is like you attach a piece of artwork to your non-fungible token. So, if I'm Grimes, Elon Musk's baby mama, wife, baby mama, I don't know. The woman he's having his child with. Do they get married? That was an interesting move on his part.
I don't keep up with Elon Musk.
Yeah. So she made a piece of art and created a non-fungible token around it and said, here is my JPEG that anyone can download for free. But if you would like bragging rights to say that you own this JPEG, you can purchase this NFT from me. I will transfer you cryptographically this NFT. And now you can say that you own this piece of art. And when I first heard this, I was like, that is ridiculous. Who in their right mind would pay for this imaginary bragging rights to say that they own this thing? Like, that doesn't make any sense. This is just a complete waste of money. But then I started thinking more about it of like, why do I buy things? Like, what would give... I would buy a physical piece of art. If I bought like a Monet or a Van Gogh or something, that would be something that I would consider would be valuable. Well, why is that? It's this piece of art that people can download a replication of without actually owning a thing. You can download a JPEG of Starry Night and not pay any money for it. Well, okay, maybe there's something of tangible of like it's the physical thing. It's like this is the canvas and this is the ink that Van Gogh was actually in, and so there's sort of something non-tangible about that. Well, kind of, but what if the piece of art was always digital? What if there is no physical thing to tie it to? Well, in that case, the value of it is sort of in like other people also value this thing, so there's value in it there. And there's also some value in, like, I have now intertwined my identity with Starry Night. And now maybe on the Wikipedia page for Starry Night, it says, oh, the owner of Starry Night from 2021 to 2025 was Christian Jenko, an art collector. That's sort of me expressing, here is who I am in the world, and this is what I value. And then I started thinking about, like, what are things that would make sense for me to own that I would spend this ridiculous amount of money in? And I was thinking, like, the first example that came to mind is XKCD Comics. If Randall Munroe started offering NFTs for each of his comics, there are several that I think I could justify spending a lot of money on to, maybe there's just like a little line at the bottom of the page or something that says the current owner of this comic is Christian Janko. That would be really cool. And, it wouldn't be a terrible financial decision because it's worth something. I could sell it if I bought it for, I don't know, $5,000. Presumably there's a market for it. There's someone else who would buy it for the same amount or more. And there's this non-tangible benefit of like, I'm expressing this is the type of person who I am in the world. So I went from thinking they were the stupidest thing in the world to trying to think about ways that I would actually use it. I think selling like the rights to blog posts would be another cool application of this. So one of the most interesting crypto art things that I've seen in this space is generative art, where like it's a machine where you can buy a piece of art from, and you don't know what the piece of art is going to look like until it's been generated. And I'm not sure how they do this. I think it's some sort of like a hash function of like when you create it, there's a hash value made, and then you make some sort of a deterministic algorithm of like the hash is the input, and then that generates an individual piece of art. That's where I would take this. I would figure out NFTs enough to know like, okay, here's how you make an NFT. Here's how I would go from this piece that's going to be random to maybe generate a description of the piece of art. So, I don't know, take the hash and turn that into a collection of 10 random dictionary words. And then that's the input to generate your art. And then for each piece, like people can buy them for whatever they want, have a standard price of like you buy one and it's $100 because it's now an NFT. It's not just a $1 piece of art. It's like you own this thing. And there's some like slot machine, Skinner's box random reward element to it of like you could get a piece of art that's really good that other people value really highly, or you could get one that's kind of wonky that isn't very good, and maybe it's worth less than $100. That's what I would do. I would start selling them. I would offer NFTs. It's also like very trendy right now, so if you posted this on Hacker News, it could be fun, and you could do a cool write up on it. And then the fact that each one costs $1 doesn't matter because sell them for an outrageous amount more than the dollar. The value of it is going to be in that it's an NFT.
Yeah, so I have several thoughts about that. The first is I had probably the same iteration of my thoughts about NFTs, which were, what is this? This is stupid. And then actually that's kind of interesting. And then maybe it's back down to a little bit. It's a mix of stupid and interesting for me right now. But
that's fair.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes NFTs actually valuable are, so like you said, you would pay for XKCD comics. Well, Randall Munroe was famous before NFT stuff. There are a lot of people now trying to make NFTs like before they're famous, and those either don't do well or like, why would you buy from someone who, like, that doesn't make any sense. So I think it makes a lot of sense for at least random JPEGs, we'll say, or whatever JPEG, right, you have, if you're already famous. The part that you said that was interesting was you buy the art like before it even exists. So that's interesting. And it's also interesting. So have you seen RoboHash? Do you know what that is?
No, what is it?
It's robohash. Is it org? Robohash.org. So it's a procedural way to do it. It's not generative necessarily, but it's you can type in whatever you want, and it converts it to an MD5 hash, and then that turns it into a robot.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're completely different if I just change one thing. That's really interesting.
Yep, exactly. So by learning about all this theory stuff, I have learned more about what actually makes this AI stuff tick, and I can now, I haven't done it yet, but I've seen the way that I could do something like create something like RoboHash, where the robots will always look sort of the same but be different, and then you can type in something like I want a robot with purple ears and red teeth or whatever, and it will generate what it thinks you think, or what it thinks you mean by that. So that's kind of where I'm going with some of this generative stuff, is applying these different things to it. But anyway, that is kind of interesting. So if you buy an NFT before you even know what it looks like, and it generates something it's going to look like, in this case, a robot, right? And all the robots are going to be different, and then some are, unique in some ways. So that to me is an interesting project, better than just, putting up a random, piece of art and trying to sell a JPEG for $1,000 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if there's a way that the purchaser of the art can be interacting with it and either getting it randomly generated, or where my mind went seeing this is seeing RoboHash is like, what if when someone buys an NFT from you, like maybe they pay up front and then they get 10 tries of different sentences that they can type in, so they can go through some of the iterative process of like,
Right.
let me add a Monet style to this, or let me see what happens if I ask it to put a unicorn in the scene or something. So it's sort of a collaborative process now of making the art, and there's creativity on the part of the purchaser, and still sort of this chance. It's a process that no individual person is in control of. It's like partially you and partially the algorithm and partially the viewer typing in the thing, and then you figure out how to limit that to that when I buy an NFT, like I only get 10 tries to make an interesting one or something. You said also the problem of people selling NFTs are people who are already famous, like Grimes or something else. What if you partner with an artist on this, like a mid-range artist who like has a following and knows more about the art, and maybe can give you some feedback on, or you collaborate with them in some way of, instead of having all your art in the style of Monet, maybe you have it in the style of whoever this artist is, if they have an interesting process, and then they can bring in their audience of people who like enjoy art, and you can bring your audience of people who are more technically savvy and know what an NFT is, and you can both get more from this than you would have individually.
Yeah. So some of the more interesting generative pieces I've seen, which are not related to NFTs at all, but it's people who use the AI generated art and then post-process it. So you might generate like 10 different pieces and take sort of elements from each piece and sort of combine it into these really nice looking things. So it's like combining this generative part with this sort of, manual photoshopping part to make these digital things which are, would fit in any, gallery or whatever. So that's part of kind of what I'm trying to do with this web app, is allow people who don't have those skills to do some of that, like combining and, choosing different aspects to, enhance or not. So yeah, my hope for some of the stuff I'm doing is to just make it so that, people like me who don't have the art skills to make some of these crazy pieces, to do it anyway, that's where I find the AI stuff's really interesting, when you can like not just say, generate me a piece of art, but like work with the AI to generate something, so that you can apply, like you can just use the AI as a tool for human creativity. That's super interesting to me. Yeah.
Well, that's fun. Maybe for each NFT you sell, you have the artist go through like a sort of human post-processing of that piece, and then that's what the actual NFT is. There's a lot of ways you can go with this. I think the core thing I'm excited about is like the ability to programmatically generate art like this. Just screams NFT to me. I think that's the place to take advantage of this. Is it deterministic with the same prompt? You always get the same result.
So there you get to do noise seeds. So you can. So one of the things that my thing does is it allows you to generate, say, 10 things with the same prompt but different noise seeds, and they will be sometimes slightly different and sometimes very different, based on like the seeds you give it. Because there is some randomness involved, but when you set the seed, the randomness is the same for that seed, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I think the thing that would make the most sense to me is like, I want to be able to go to your website and pay you $100 for, I don't know, 10 or 20 tries of, I want to type in my own prompt and sort of know what I'm going to get out of it. Like, I want to see what your style of thing is, and I want to know that at the end of that, like, I'm going to receive an NFT, and you'll have to do some education of your customer, probably, of like, here's how you actually receive the NFT, and you'll need to set up a MetaMask account and all that. So I want to send you some Ethereum, and then you say, okay, you have 10 tries to type in whatever prompt you want that will generate a unique piece of art that has never existed before. And then I want to type in a prompt and say, unicorn going through space. And then I want to see like 5 iterations of that. So that's try number 1. And I want to see like, okay, we made a bunch of different seeds for you. Pick your favorite one of these. And I say, I like this one the best. And they say, great. You have 4 more tries if you want to. And I say, ooh, unicorn going through space in the style of Monet. And then you show me 5 more, and I say, ooh, I like that one. And then at the end of that process, I have 5 of my top picks, and you say, all right, we're about to mint your NFT. It's going to be one of these 5. You can only get one, and there's no way that you could possibly get any of these ever again, because in the process of doing this, like, there was this randomness, and your NFT is being minted, and it's this unique thing, and have like this element of scarcity that like no one could possibly ever own this again. This image is like you can have the JPEG, but through the process of minting the NFT, it can only be one of these things, and there's no way that you could possibly get another NFT that was this image. And I say, cool, man, I really love this one, but this one's a little bit better, and it's kind of sad that like this piece of art is going to be lost forever, but it's not. It's like you just copy the JPEG, but it's not going to be. It's never going to be an NFT. You can't possibly make it an NFT. And then I say, yes, I want this one, and you say, great. We're minting your NFT now, and I think the process of doing that is energy intensive and it takes some time. But then that NFT for that image that I have made drops into my MetaMask account, and now I have an NFT, and now I can resell that and say, like, look at this amazing NFT that I made. It was actually difficult for me to do this because it's this random process, and also I had to enter my own prompts.
Yeah. I like that idea, that it becomes their NFT. It's not me as an artist selling them an NFT. I'm designing a tool that like allows other people to create NFTs, and it happens to cost, 0.1 Ethereum or whatever.
Yeah.
Or 0.1 Ether. I think that's right. Yeah.
Is that different?
So I like
that.
Ether's
the
I think
currency?
Ether is the
Ethereum's
currency
network?
in something like that.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
I should get that straight. I didn't know there was a difference.
Yeah. So the other thing, so yes, I like that. I like that idea generally. The other thing, which I've been thinking about, because I'm now working for a games company for the next 2 weeks anyway, is I can make the whole thing a game. It would be really cool if you could play with like 4 friends, and you go through some game, and then at the end you have like a piece of generative art which represents what you did in the game.
Interesting.
And that's about as far as I've thought through that process, but it'd be really, I think, a really neat thing, because then you have like, you have a JPEG you can download that represents, what your 4 friends did for an hour on a Saturday or something.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah,
reminded of Jackbox. Have you played TKO on Jackbox?
I have not, but I've seen it.
Yep. That's for listeners who don't know, TKO, Jackbox is this collaborative party game. You put it up on your TV, and then everyone, even if they're in a different state, goes on their phone and is connected. And they have games like, they'll ask everyone individual questions, and you come up with funny answers and enter them on your phone. And every question has 2 people answer them, and then that question pops up on the screen, and you say which one is funnier, and then you give people points. And it's a great COVID activity. It's fun to do remotely. There's another game they have called TKO, where you get you generate slogans that you think would be funny on a T-shirt, and then you draw a bunch of funny drawings that you think would be funny on a T-shirt. That's round number 1. You just make a bunch of drawings, you make a bunch of prompts. Round number 2 is you get everyone else's, you get a subset of other people's drawings and a subset of other people's prompts, and you try to match them into the funniest combination. And now you have a bunch of different shirts. And then in round 3, you see all the shirts that everyone's made, and then they battle, and you get the best one. And I have, in playing this with my friends, come up with some hilarious shirts. I've gotten 2 of them printed. They're ridiculous. That's the sort of thing that I'm thinking of, though, of like maybe you have a Jackbox style game where it would have to cost something, which is interesting. This would be like a premiere sort of like we're gonna make a piece of art together, but like maybe I'm entering prompts for your AI to generate a piece of art, and then it goes head to head, and I find the best one, and then at the end of that, like we can order a physical copy of it, or we can order an NFT of it.
I was gonna say, you each pay $1, and then you have a thing that mints 4 NFTs, right?
Yeah. And you can do that with NFTs. You can have like shares of the thing. You can jointly own a piece.
Yep. That's interesting. Because then it provides some. My problem with NFTs is like it's just either the bubble's going to crazy burst, or it's going to be like famous people. Oh.
Justin, I'm recording a podcast. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No problem. My problem with NFTs is like either the bubble's going to like really burst, or it's just like, in my mind, rich people charging a lot of money for JPEGs, right? But it would be really interesting if you made an NFT after you played a game for an hour with your friends, because then it like means, it actually means something. Like it means you spent an hour playing a game.
Yes.
So that's very interesting to me.
You worked for it. You have an emotional attachment to it. I would sort of be resistant to selling it because I made it. It's mine.
Right.
I want to keep it. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
That's lots to think about. All right, that's cool.
I think you would have that same sort of ownership with the first business model we talked about of like, if I went through and said the prompts and I felt like I was making the art, I think I would feel the same sort of emotional attachment to it. Oh, there's a thing that happens like this. It has a funny name. It's like the IKEA effect.
The IKEA effect.
Where,
yep.
Is that what it's called? Where if you make
effect,
the piece of furniture, you feel more of an emotional attachment to it. That if I just buy a piece of pre-assembled furniture, I'm much more likely to give it away. But like, oh, I screwed in those screws, and I didn't do it very well, and so the table's kind of wonky and shifts all over. I have a stronger emotional attachment to that table than I would, apart from like the physical attributes of the table. I feel like I would sort of get that if I was making my own piece of NFT art.
Yeah, exactly. And the strongest version of this is your art that your kids bring home from school. So your 5-year-old cannot draw as well as Monet can, but when she draws a picture, you put it up on your wall, and you're proud of that picture.
Yes,
exactly.
That's what I'm going to grab if there's a house fire. Yeah,
that's right. And there's no rational, real explanation for it except that it's a lot of hours to train that kid to draw like that, and it's really emotional when she does. So same.
Lots of training hours spent on making that neural net that can generate that terrible piece of macaroni art.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That's so funny. I'd like to talk about some of my stuff. I had some cool things happen since we last talked. I set a goal for myself to work on clips.marketing and File Inbox for more than 199 minutes. And working on File Inbox, 0. I did not work on that at all. But working on clips.marketing, I worked for a total of 317 minutes. Good job, Christian. That is more than 199. And I pushed it forward. I did it. I crossed the finish line of this thing that I've just been, oh my God. I don't know when I first started talking about this. I think it was dozens of episodes ago of like, just around the corner. We're going to finish this and get it working. I'm finally done. I have a machine now that I take a long form piece of video and put it in, and then I can very easily make clips. Those clips get edited into social media optimized versions with the title on top and the transcript on the bottom. That part was really hard to do. That was like a lot of learning FFmpeg and cloud stuff, and I'm so happy with all of that. And then I can automatically queue those up, so it goes in a social media queue, and then I have a schedule of how often I would like to post, and then those clips get automatically posted right now just to Twitter. That's the only integration that works on a schedule. And I did like a week of those, and we have a week of clips now that are social media optimized and published to the Twitter account. I'm so proud of myself. I did such a good job. And so several good things came with that. The first is got a lot more engagement on the Twitter account. Some of the clips that I posted have like over several hundred views on the video, which feels really good. Those are several hundred views of people watching those that wouldn't have seen it otherwise. Our Twitter account doesn't have a ton of followers, so the ones that got the most engagement were ones that like you or I retweeted, because we have like a few thousand followers. I think the follower of just the podcast is like a couple hundred people. So feeling good about that, especially because like it's not going to require very much maintenance. It's not going to require that much ongoing effort to keep churning out clips. So this is just going to keep going in the background. And then I don't want to pollute my own personal Twitter feed with a bunch of these clips, but if there's one that is particularly interesting or one that I want to retweet, I can. And I just have this wellspring of media about myself. I think the next integration I want to do is YouTube. So make like a separate YouTube clips account, and then just passively have like, I think that'll be good for like search optimization, because if someone's searching for like NFTs and they want to know about NFTs, I would love for them to be able to on YouTube see the clip from this episode of like, here's Christian and Chris talking about NFTs. So that feels really good. So that was one of the first things that came of it, is like I'm now experiencing the benefit of the whole reason that this machine was designed to do. It's working, and it feels really good. Second thing is, I sent out an email update to everyone on the email list. There are 34 people on my email list of people who would like to know updates about clips.marketing. I had 16 people read that email. I had 4 people watch the update video. I had several responses of people being like, cool, I want this. This is great. And I had one schedule a call with me that said in the survey, I talked with him later today, actually. He said, I've paid an agency around $15,000 to produce these for me in the past, so I'd love to see more about the platform. Yeah, so that's cool.
I think you need to ask him what he got for $15,000. That's
I do. I'd love to say I'll give you the same thing for half of that.
That's right. That's not necessarily high.
Yeah,
but it may be that they like did a lot more, like not just polished it, but also like gave him like strategic tips or something like that. Or maybe it was for like 1,000 clips. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it'd be very
really
interesting
curious
to
to
see.
talk to him.
Yeah,
maybe also like they came up with branding or something, or figured out what the format of it. But like that work's already done. If he's still happy with how the clips looked, I can just copy that and be rendering them. So yeah, that feels really good, and it seems like I'm focused on the right layer of what my input is. Of if I'm just optimizing for like, I need to put at least this much time into this work per week, I'd like to be doing that. Small aside here, I especially love focusing on my input in terms of time. And I really want to double down on doing that with File Inbox this week. I want to make sure that I get over 200 minutes of time spent on File Inbox this next week. Because in chewing more on this Tesla renting out thing on Turo, and thinking about like the amount of work that I would need to do to be able to get to be able to have the car for free, and then to be able to maybe be making money on top of that, it's going to be so much more work than if I just thought of it in terms of like, let me increase business revenue by $800 a month. Okay, done. I don't need to do anything differently. All my machines are still in place. I don't need to be driving to the airport. I don't need to be worrying about someone crashing my car. So I think I've thought myself in a full circle of like, yes, I would like a Tesla because it's very cool. And also, it would be better for me to just double down and focus on like the business revenue that I'm already making, instead of starting something new. Like, I have not hit the ceiling of this by a long shot. And even thinking of it in terms of like, should I be spending time or effort on File Inbox or clips.marketing or something new? Like, my gosh, if I was managing myself, it would make so much more sense to just bump up File Inbox a little bit more. There's a dozen projects I can think of that I think would absolutely make sense. That it would be a very safe bet that if I spent 200 minutes, I would have like a reasonable chance of increasing revenue by at least that amount over, like, I don't know, the next month or two. And I feel like I need to talk to like a sports psychologist of why I feel like I have a mental block on this. But so we'll start out with this week of just like, I'm just going to spend 200 minutes working on it, pushing it forward in any capacity. It could be just planning. It could be, as long as I sit down at my computer for 200 minutes this week with the intention of I'm working on File Inbox, I could do nothing, and that part of it will be a success. So yeah, that's clips.marketing and File Inbox and a Turo Tesla update. Any thoughts on that? Any critiques to my strategy? Do you have any insights into why I'm still resistant to working on File Inbox?
It's the same reason I don't want to. Like, I could make a whole ton of money if I focus on the right consulting, and I just don't want to. Like it's probably the same like thing. Like, you're at a level of success with File Inbox where yes, you could do a lot more, and now you want the novelty of doing something different, and so that's part of it, I'm sure. It's also the same thing we talked about before, which is like I have looked before, or at least when we had 2 incomes and no kids, about like investing in some kind of rental property, and I just determined, like, especially when we went back down to 1 income and no kids, and had a kid, that it's like a lot of effort for something where the obvious gains are in software, like almost compared to almost anything. Like, just if you can improve software, or in my case it was like learning more so that I could make more money later, right? Consulting, that almost going to outstrip any gains that you could ever get with real estate or renting out your Tesla, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, intellectually, it like just makes a ton of sense for you to dive fully into File Inbox. I just think there's a balance there. So like spending 0 minutes on File Inbox is probably too low.
Yeah.
And spending all your time is probably too high, given that
Yeah.
you want to trade some, value for novelty or interestingness. So yeah, I think having a goal of spending at least some time, so 200 minutes in this case, on File Inbox is a good goal, because it gets you some of the way there, but still lets you do some of the interesting things. Yeah, so those are my thoughts.
Cool. That may be part of what my resistance has been, because like I can rationally justify spending all of my time doing nothing but this, and I may just be oscillating too wildly of like when I do that, I feel like I'm resenting more of my work, and so then it's like a manic depressive cycle. Like I'll spend a whole bunch of time in it and make a lot of meaningful progress on File Inbox, but then hate the work that I was doing, and so then I'm like, I never want to work on it again, and I'm going to spend no time on it. So if I'm more charitable with myself, and it's more of a negotiation of like, okay, I know you don't want to spend all of your time doing this because there's other more interesting things to be doing, but let's have some sort of a compromise of like some number of minutes per week that does make sense, that is meaningfully pushing it forward, and it's not too much of a sacrifice where you don't have time to work on anything else. You still have ample time to work on the stuff that you want to. That feels like it'd be a good compromise. And then, like, man, my takeaway from researching more things in finance and learning more about real estate and learning more about the car rental business and figuring out other creative ways that people are making money, like, software is so good. I had no idea. I just like stumbled into this as the first type of business that I'm in, but like there doesn't need to be any employees, and if they are, they can be remote or they can be contractors. Your profit margins are insane because the value that you're producing can be, you can replace people, you can replace departments. The amount of value you can produce is just infinite, and it runs on machines. It's optimized from the ground up to be completely automated at every level of like, and like the people working in the space just have this pathological intensity to keep automating it at every level of like, it's not just that the software runs by itself, it's that you can buy the machines and rent them. And then those machines can run by themselves, and then it gets even more abstract because you can hire Google to have all your infrastructure on cloud computing, so they're automating all of the scaling even, and it just keeps going up from there. That if you can come up with a valuable pattern that's providing people value, the cost of it is outrageously close to zero and will only continue decreasing. And there's still so much low-hanging fruit of like, anytime a human is touching a spreadsheet or anytime a human is sending an email, like there will still be opportunities to be making money in software. And I think it's, I would not have realized that if I hadn't been exploring more of this alternate ideas of how you can be making money and what other types of businesses are. So I'm happy I've done it, and I've thought myself in a circle once again of like, oh yes, software is a very good place to be spending time and attention. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, not just that. Well, so yeah, first of all, software can have 90% margins, 95%, profit margins. Grocery stores have like 2% or something. So like,
really,
that's so that's like the variables there. But the other part is like the variable costs are hugely different too. So software, if you add another person, it's like almost zero. If you add another 1,000 people, maybe you have to add another server or something, right? But it steps up linearly or so with people. Like, okay, once you get to Netflix size, then you have to hire whole departments just to manage like the onboarding or whatever. But anyway, with stuff like your car rental business or house renting businesses, you get one bad tenant or one bad person who crashes your car, right? And then you have 100% cost or insurance, which kicks in. So software is just better on almost every aspect for business.
Netflix is an interesting example to bring up too, because they're a global company. If you're in Bangladesh, you can use Netflix. So like, yes, they hired a department of people, but comparing that to if Blockbuster had to hire people in Bangladesh, or McDonald's, it's insane. Like you can have a global product. You can have a business that can literally serve every single person in the world for a micro fraction of what that would have cost in a more traditional type of business. You don't need any real estate. You don't need janitors. You don't need to figure out plumbing issues. And it's just like, here's the product. If you have connection to the internet, you can use it and you can get value from it. It's just such an exciting time to be alive. Yeah, cool. So you mentioned the need for me to trade some value for novelty or interestingness. Here is a novel, interesting project that is not going to make any money. That I have been thinking a lot about, and I think I can sort of justify in terms of like learning more about AI and machine learning stuff. I was off this last week. I was in New York for a family reunion, and one of the things they did was show a slideshow that came from all of these really old film that got digitally scanned in, and it was so much fun. There were probably 100 people there from all my extended family, my dad's cousins and uncles, and all these different branches of the family, showing pictures that no one had seen in decades. And a picture would come up and everyone would be like chatting about, oh my gosh, look at this. It's this younger person. My dad looks so funny. He's this little string bean and he's got these huge glasses. And it's, it was so fun to see him. And the person who scanned them in, my dad's, my grandpa's cousin, Joe, had scanned them all in. He's an older person and is not super tech savvy, so I was very impressed that like he was able to scan them in digitally. Was passing around this thumb drive that had all the photos on them, and I was thinking like that doesn't make any sense. This should be on Facebook. This should be on Google Photos, and everything I thought of didn't quite fit because like Facebook seems very tuned for sharing stuff that's going to be more ephemeral of like, here's this cheesecake I ate today and how great it is. And it's sort of assuming that you took the photo on your smartphone and are uploading it right there. So it's going to have location data and the date and time metadata that's on it is going to make sense. But the use case for like genealogy type records, I kind of want like a Wikipedia that has media of the people that like, if I wanted to tell a story about my great aunt who's been dead for 10 years, I could sort of leave it on there. It's like a sort of, I don't know, living obituary that also has a bunch of photos of her. And then I can show my kids and my grandkids, like, look, this is your family lineage. Here's this crazy story about your great, 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 great grandfather who I personally knew, who like, I have this. Was that the right number of greats? It was my great grandfather. I don't know what that would be to my grandkids.
Sure.
It may have been one extra one. And here's a video of them, and here's a collection of videos of them, and here's a bunch of photos of them that actually span a meaningful amount of time. Here's like pictures of them when they were young and old, and here's like a timeline of their life and the interesting events that happened in there. And so that's we talked before on the show about how I get all caught up in making businesses like just for myself. I'll make a piece of software that only I use and call it B to me. I think this would be B to, wait for it, family. So I think I'm going to make a social network like just for my family, and I'll design it in a way that it could be scaled up to other families, but it's going to involve like it'll be sort of a clone of Facebook and Wikipedia and Google Photos. I want to use it to be able to go on it and like say who they are and where they are in the family tree, and then upload all of the media that they've had in shoeboxes. And then, this is the AI part, I want to do what Google Photos is doing right now of recognizing faces and then recognizing who those people are. And this is a specific question that I have for you on this, actually. I know how to do the recognizing faces part. That was one of the examples in the book that you recommended. How would you go about identifying who that person is? Are there neural nets where you can say, like, here's a bunch of pictures of faces, cluster them together into who is probably the same person? How would I learn more about how to do that?
Yeah. So there's a lot to talk about there. So I'll talk about the AI part first because that's the last thing you said. Okay. Yes, there are absolutely neural nets that can do that. There's a lot of different ways you could solve for that. I think it was FastStat AI. there was a whole class on YouTube. I think I'm trying to find it, but I'll find it later. Where it's like, how would you recognize someone in a photo? So there's lots of different ways to do it. One is like, is this person this person? And so say you have 100 people in your family or whatever, and you could go through all the photos and say, is it any of these 100 people? And then just tag them, whatever. So yeah, that's absolutely a thing that AI can do. There's several different ways to do it. The other part is about this as a business. I think you're right that this is B to family, and it would be great for your family. The problem is, if you ever wanted to make money with this, I see this as a very uphill battle, or a different type of business than we've ever talked about, which is when you first started talking about this as like a social network or a competitor to Google Drive or Facebook, I was like, oh, this is dead in the water. When you start talking about it with the historical twist, so like the genealogy twist, I could totally see that as a whole separate company, which is like a sort of social network where some of the people are dead, right? Like dead for hundreds of years. And that could be very interesting. However, so the big however is that you would probably need a lot of money to make this work. So you'd need to raise millions and millions of dollars to really make this work for any wide stretch of people, because people. So I have gone on some of these genealogy sites before, and I go back like 2 generations or whatever they let you, and like they make you pay for the 3rd generation or something like that, and I go whatever, and then I go about the rest of my life. And so it's interesting up to the point where I have to pay, and then it's not interesting to me anymore. So the way that you could monetize it is with ads or something else, right? So if you wanted to make this really widespread, then it would be like I see this definitely as like a raise venture money and do something like ads type of thing. So hopefully some of that hit with what you were trying to do.
Maybe some of the ads I could sell would be for like longevity drugs while you're browsing through. Like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get old one day. Look at my great grandfather. You see an ad for, I don't know, metformin or NMN to increase the length of your telomeres. It would be a difficult business to get off the ground, because I think the extent to which people are going to use this is like, oh, neat. And it's not solving a problem. I don't like need to get a picture of my grandfather right now, and I need to know exactly when his wedding day was. If anything, like it's sort of a liability to have a database of a collection of everyone's mother's maiden name. So I'm having to think a lot about security and who I'm going to let into this, and I think I'm going to do sort of a model where to see any of the data that a particular person has uploaded, you have to be friends with them. So I'll be able to see on this profile of a person, like, okay, here's limited public information about your great aunt. But if you want to see 92 pictures of her and you want to see this other metadata about her, you need to friend this particular person who's your cousin, who is a direct descendant of her. I'm not thinking I'm not seeing a straightforward way to make money from this, but I do see great value in it for me personally. I'm very curious about my family history, and I would love to have a collection of all these things, because my gosh, a lot of these people who have this information now are going to start dying, and have been dying. And what a tragedy of like a refrain that I keep coming back to. And one of my main motivations for making this podcast is this idea that the difference between writers and people who don't write is that writers write. It's not that they have anything more interesting to say necessarily, or that they have any more valuable information. It's just like they wrote their stuff down. And how much stuff is lost when a person dies that they just didn't write down, of like, what food did my great-great-grandmother make that she had the recipe for? Like, what knowledge and wisdom did she have about how to cook stuff, for like stories that she had or understandings that she had about the country that she came from, that are just completely inaccessible to me now, that I cannot get back. They're completely lost. As far as I know, she did not write anything down that survived now that's easily accessible. But if I had a way to collect those things, if I had a place where maybe if I tickle this network, that sounds gross, of like all of the people who I know in my extended family, were like, hey, anything that you have, that shoebox full of photos, like, here is a place for you to dump it in now, and I have made a system to collect it and organize it. I see huge personal value out of being able to get back some of that lost information and be able to tell more of those stories. And man, it would just be so cool if I, had a database of, I could go up my entire family tree and see like, okay, these are the 50 people who I came from, and this is what they looked like, and here's some information about who they were, and that went into this generation and this generation, and that led to me, and being able to have that information for my kids, just that's feeling very motivating for me right now, and would solve a lot of problems that I have of, this huge bookshelf behind me of all these photos from my grandmother. Like, they're just rotting on the shelf right now, and I would love to be able to have a place to put them that they could actually be useful. So like for my cousin whose mother died several years ago, like in this shelf behind me are pictures of her growing up that I think they've never seen. How cool would it be if they could just go to her on the family tree and then see all of the pictures of her growing up and be able to see that maybe on a timeline and compare that to their own lives and realize like, oh my gosh, I'm older than my mom was when she had me, and like here's a picture of her when she was that age. That would just be really cool. So that's a thing I want to do just for fun.
Yeah. It's such an interesting sort of view into human psychology, because there's like, I'm sure there are distant cousins who have pictures of my great grandfather or whatever, or like so my last name is Achard. It comes from France. We know generally in France where it came from. There's like a city and a lake, right? And I want to know more about that, but I don't want to spend the $20 on ancestry.com or whatever it takes to like learn about it. So like, I'm sure my life would be more interesting if I knew about that aspect of it. But it's just like, without doing it for free, it's tough. So it's like something that will make people's lives better if you could do it, but they won't pay for it. It's a hard problem to solve. Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up, because at no point in thinking about this problem did I ever even consider maybe Ancestry.com already does this. Maybe if I just paid the $20 to them, maybe
I don't know if they
also
store
have like storage. Yeah.
I don't know if they store lots and lots of pictures. They have like genealogy charts, and they have like, where people came from, and like all the death and marriage certificates and stuff like that. I don't think they allow pictures. I could be totally wrong, and for $20 maybe you can upload all the pictures you want. I'm not sure. This might already exist.
Check them out before investing dozens of hours into building this. I should pay that $20 to Ancestry.com and just see like what the data they have is and what that thing is. I would be surprised if you could upload media, because in my mind they're like a Web 1.0 company that has existed for as long as I've been on the internet. So and unlimited data storage is a relatively new thing. I'd be surprised if they adjusted their business model to support that.
The other play for this, which is also a venture-backed business, but is something more like Shutterfly. So like, there are people who spend hours and hours and hours generating these books. Like, my family has a binder, which is like someone spent a lot of time putting together all the death and marriage certificates and pictures and stuff and put it in a big binder. And so, but on Shutterfly, you could do something like put that together and then print one for, every person in the family for $40 a piece or something. So that would be the other play, is like you upload all this stuff and then print a photo book with all the family tree information and then distribute it at a family reunion or something. The problem is that's still a venture-backed business play. So.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder if there's a specific product that might make sense for, like for weddings. I can make you a thing that takes up a table that's like a picture of all of your relatives on their wedding day, and maybe I make a cool little chart for you to show you some interesting thing comparing your wedding to their wedding, of like, your great grandparents were this old when they got married and you're this old or something. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'll think about that. I don't love the idea of getting prints, because I feel like that's moving backwards. But maybe for the people who are interested in this sort of thing in genealogy, like maybe they want that. There was a picture of my dad that came up in the slideshow that was just, it was like a really artistic photo that like showed him in this cool stance that like I think perfectly captured like who he was as a child. That's one I would love to get printed. But even then, I don't know if I wanted to get printed or if I just want to pull the trigger on getting one of those digital photo frames and just have that as one of the photos in the rotation. Printing is interesting. Yeah,
something I was looking at. This ties back to the NFT stuff and the generative art piece. There are now TVs, or there's at least one TV by Samsung, which looks very much like a frame. Like it has a frame on the side and everything, and the way it displays, you can actually, it's hard to tell that it's a TV compared to a piece of artwork. And so but it's a TV, and so you can have it rotate, artwork or whatever. So
That's very cool.
there you go. You buy the TV
I would like to
and
do
you just
that.
yeah.
It's by Samsung. I might get. Do you know how much they are?
The 32 inch I think is like $1,000, and the 50 something inch is $2,000. It's expensive for a TV, yeah, but it looks like a piece of art, which most TVs don't. So
yeah. I kind of like that. if I'm like throwing a party and when I have guests over and be like, oh yes, I have a Monet.
right. Yep.
That's a very accurate Monet. Yeah. Huh. And then when they leave, I put my kids' drawing back on because that's what I'm more emotionally attached to.
Right.
Interesting. Good stuff. What a fun chat. I missed last week. This was a good catch up. Chris, that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I will see you next week. Goodbye.